Right. Good morning and a warm welcome. First of all, thank you for coming. This is a difficult time to assemble for a session, so it must have been quite hard for you to turn up for an offline session. And also welcome to our online participants. We have almost 350 registered participants for this season of DecaLect. And most of them are waiting us to upload this session's recording. So I, in their absence, welcome them also onto this session. It's a pleasure for me personally and for the department to start with DecaLect Season 2. This has been much cherished event that we were planning. In fact, the department has a series of events which are scheduled perfectly into different breaks, which our head might explain you. However, this particular program, DecaLect, is a series of lectures. Each season is made on a particular topic, themed upon a particular topic. This time we have focused on culture. And in this season, you might have seen the brochures that we have 10 different topics that are connected to culture. Culture, as we know, is the whole encompassing umbrella above us. We have everything joined with culture in our everyday life, in our everyday practices. And from that whole picture, we have taken 10 sample instances. We've taken culture in terms of its borders and discourses about what is on the other side of borders. And then we have topics like sports, we have topics like violence, we have topics like photography, we have topics like food. All these are part of our everyday life, and at the same time, all these are the defining characteristics of our identity, our consciences in this world. So in that context, we have specifically selected 10 topics as subjects for lectures. However, we haven't directed our speakers particularly with clear instructions what you have to deliver. Not very clearly, but on an overall idea was shared with them, what we have expected them and what we might ask them in a discussion. So they might explain you things from their perspective. And coming to our speaker today, I'm not going into the details of each speaker here. We will occasionally talk about them in each sessions. But today's lecture is delivered by Mr. Mujib Rahman Kinalur. He is a critic. You might have seen him in news TV channels. He's a culture critic. He's an author. He has plenty of books and critical write-ups published, available in bookstores, available online, all there. And more than that, in my personal acquaintance, I found him a very inspiring person with a lot of topics that might ask you to go about to do some research on. He has a lot of threads that he can share with him, with us. That's why I have a particular interest in bringing him as the first speaker of this season's lectures. He is a widely traveled and well-read personality. This is something very rarely blend. Those who travel and those who read are different species. At least in my acquaintance, that's different species. But Mujib Rahman is a well-read and well-traveled personality, so he might have a lot to discuss with us from his experience. And coming on to the topic, I personally look at it as, my motive is something which was often recalled from one of the sediments that I have from my readings of Muqaddimah, Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah, is that there is this climate that, there's an argument that he puts forward in Muqaddimah that climate shapes people's personalities, their food culture and their body language. Altogether, there's a connection that he draws between climate and the culture of particular regions of the world, the inhabited world. And in that sense, we can clearly see that the climates change from region to region. And there are, whether visible in a political map or invisible, there are boundaries between these groups of people, or the identities that has identified with each other. There are boundaries, whether we acknowledge it or not, there are boundaries. And outside the boundary, which include us, we might see them as the other, and then the way we perceive them is with the differences they have with ours. Whatever defines us and how do we identify ourselves is by the difference we have with the other people outside the boundaries of these definitive regions, whether in personalities, whether in food, whether in dress code, whether in mannerisms, etiquettes, or whatever. So this might draw us some thoughts about the distribution of humanity across the globe. And that is where we have the topics like culture beyond boundaries or beyond borders comes into particular significance, because we are increasingly going to the negative sides of identity rather than the positive sides of identifying with groups. Or I forgot the Arabic word that Ibn Khaldun used in Muqaddimah for this camaraderie or the solidarity, group solidarity. I think it was something like asabiya or something. Anyway, this group solidarity has its negative sides, as Ibn Khaldun had mentioned. That is growing more attention, gaining more attention in recent times, setting us into hostile camps which goes in conflict with the other rather than in camaraderie with the other. So this is where we have discussions about other cultures that might spark some insight into being a well-being world, gradually building a healthy relationship. So it's with immense pleasure that I have thought about inviting Mujib Rahman Kinalur for this talk, because he has that both things in him. He has read and he has traveled. So with due respect and with due gratitude, I welcome our chief guest of the day into this season, Mr. Mujib Rahman Kinalur. And of course, our event is going to be inaugurated by our principal, Honorable Principal Dr. K. Aziz, and he, as you all know, most of you are students of the campus, and you know that he doesn't need an introduction. His encouragement for conducting programs in the campus doesn't need an introduction in front of you. For the formality's sake, I am here to invite our Honorable Principal also to this session, and our head of the department, Mr. Abdul Samad, will chair the sessions, and for the formality's sake, I would like to welcome Mr. Abdul Samad to chair the session and then hand over the session. Thank
you. Good morning. Well, this is the second season of DecaLect. So one thing that you should keep in mind is, I should describe myself as a transitional head, which you might be familiar with, transitional poets, who in fact doesn't belong to one domain, but instead move into the other. Right? In the case of knowledge, for example, if you were a student of a college some, let's say, 30 years back, things would have been much more easier to you. Because by then, you know what, knowledge was something fixed, something that is already established, something that is consolidated, and your job is very simple. You learn it, if possible, memorize it, reproduce it whenever it is necessary, and you are in fact an achiever, right? But now, things are changing. For example, instead of having such kind of a fixed notion on knowledge, now what we understand is, knowledge is a product. How is knowledge produced? That is through human interactions. So the first thing about our time is, knowledge is continuously being contested and reproduced and reframed. Right. So this is one thing about our time, and I sometimes feel that while I am acting as a head of the department, I am at a very difficult time in the sense that things are taking shape all the time. They are not consistent. They are shifting from one form to another. So my point is that knowledge is something that is constructed by people at different historic moments. Right? If that is the case, we are students and teachers, so we know that knowledge, if knowledge is a production, education process is also something that is not fixed. Which means in our classroom, we are supposed to interact, we are supposed to, in a sense, construct a particular tools to understand things. That's what we do. My point is that when it comes to departments across the world, especially language and literature departments, this crisis is there. Earlier, teaching literature was very simple. Simple in the sense, you select one textbook, then you start discussing characterization in that novel, let's say for example, characterization in that novel, or possibly narrative technique in that novel, or possibly the ideas expressed in that particular novel or particular text. But now, what happens is, scholars are not happy with what is inside the text, but instead, they are consistently asking for who has conceived the text, who has produced it, and who acknowledge or recognize something as good or bad, and which are the factors that contributed in the making of that particular text. In that way, literature departments are in fact moving from teaching single textbooks into taking any human expression as a text. That is the primary background within which we are in fact launching the second season of DecaLect on culture. So now we understand that literature is just like any other human expression. Right? You may be a dancer, you may be a traveler, you may be an advertiser for that matter, you may be a film goer, or you may be a reader, or you may be a visual artist, you may be a painter. So one thing about literature at present is, literature is in a sense reduced to one of the many human expressions. That's it. Right. So at the department, we have this problem. At one end, we have universities prescribing you books which you teach every day. At the same time, the world outside is asking for more. When we are teaching you what is there in a text, the world outside is watching. What do we talk about the reader? What do we talk about the time of the time of that particular literary production? So what we do at present is, we have a very regular programs with which we are trying to bridge the gap between traditional literary studies, which was centered on specific literary texts and it is inattentions, and the wider, let me say, concerns of culture. As a result, I think I don't have to tell you that our students are here. Some of you are in fact from outside. So I'm just briefing it that we have research forum, and that was in fact we launched so that students are in fact presenting their ideas, and in that way they are part of the knowledge production process. At every month we have expert scholars giving you presentation, giving our students presentations, so that they will familiarize certain kind of approaches, how to approach a book, how to approach a, let me say, a cultural expression like a film, right? And we have every semester, we have certificate courses within which we are trying to give you what is missing in the syllabus, right? Every year we have definitely, you remember that, we have our founder memorial lecture, MK Haji Memorial Lecture, within which we are trying to create an awareness on the socio-political climate that we are at present living, right? Continuing the same strategy, we are moving to DecaLect, which is in fact a binale, right? Once in every 2 years, we have DecaLect, and that was in fact giving insight on particular aspects of culture and studies which are not in fact a part of the curriculum. So this program, just like our research forum or our certificate courses or our founder memorial lecture, DecaLect is also in fact one of our attempt to supplement what is missing in the present curriculum. But so within that motive, we are in fact inviting students from across the world, for that matter. This time we have, usually our programs are limited to physical spaces, so that those people who can in fact travel to this place can only be a participant. But for this program we have around 200 people, and they are from different parts of the country, even outside. So we are trying to bridge what is missing in the present curriculum, in the present academic discourse, and trying to offer something that in fact equip us to have greater understanding of life and literature. For that matter, for example, we have the first lecture, and I'm sorry that I'm a bit longer because this is the initial talk on the 10 lecture series, so we will not be coming to interfere with the rest of the lectures, so just bear with me for the time being. So the first one, as Mr. Naufal has already briefed it, so you have lectures on travel, on sports, on medicine, on industry, right? We haven't talked about industry so far when we are talking about novels, but for example, we have taught you many novels, many forms of literature, but we never talked about culture industry, for example, right? So when a novel is selected for publication or not selected for publication, there are certain social preferences going on. So these lectures will offer insight into such kind of off-track ideas, and this will form like a collage of 10 sessions. And at the end of the day, when you combine all these 10 sessions into one, you will have a wonderful idea, wonderful insights on different aspects of culture, which I believe that will definitely create more interactions, more studies from your part and from the teacher's part as well. So that is what I have to say as a introduction, and I don't want to prolong this. So let me invite our Honorable Principal, Dr. K. Aziz, to inaugurate this session. Thank you.
Good morning. Most respected guest of the day, or the critic, more than that, a good organizer, Mr. Mujibur Rahman Kinaro, known to me for many years. Mr. Abdul Samad, head of the department, other faculty members, research scholars, PG students, those who are joined from other universities, including central universities across India. Warm good morning to one and all. Very happy to see that the research department of English of PSMO College once again standing in front of you with a good lecture series. I remember the first one in I think that was in 2018-19 academic year. The DecaLect series 1. That was on literature, I think. At that time, they organized a DecaLect program mainly by selecting our faculty members as the resource persons. But this time, it is, as mentioned in that brochure, a series of 10 inspiring lectures by selecting eminent resource persons from various parts of our country. IITians are there, Fulbright fellows are there, college teachers are there, persons from print, film, etc. are there. Hence it is something different. This time moving with the theme culture. By these 10 lectures of this series, different areas on culture is discussing. Dear students, you are lucky. You are going to experience the expertise of 10 outside resource persons this year. And also I request faculty members to organize this program yearly. No, it should be changed. That I heard from someone's comment. This type of program should be conducted yearly, because the benefit from this kind of programs, as mentioned by Samad, it is beyond limit. It is difficult to organize programs of this kind. Then also try to organize, that's for our students, and also we are going to, already the Department of English has recognized as a research center. Okay, by next year onwards, the research students also will join. Okay, these topics are not, is beyond a PG student, I think. Will be very much helpful to researchers also. Hence, next year onwards, we try to organize this program every year. As we are organizing that our managers commemoration lecture. Okay. One more thing I would like to mention is when all these lectures we are collecting in the form of solid form, that's in the form of a book. Okay, that can be used by lakhs and lakhs of persons. If it is available in online, okay, if it is connected with our website, our publication division can publish that yearly one book we can produce from the Department of English. Okay, try all of you organize a department council meeting after this session. Okay, after this data series. Okay, then you think of like that. Okay, I'm not taking much time. Mr. Mujib Rahman Kanalur is waiting for giving the first lecture of this series. Is known to me years back. I am looking, I mentioned, as a good organizer, as a leader, who was in the front of a youth organization in Kerala, okay, in which myself also a part, worked together for that organization. Hence, first lecture. So, traveled a lot. This experience you will get from today's lecture. Okay, I am thankful to Mr. Mujib to be with here in PSMO College. I asked him. So first time he is coming to PSMO College. Okay, he visited our orphanage, our Arabic college, and also Tirurangadi is very known to him. But in PSMO, this is the first program. Okay, and also as principal of this college, I must make thanks to you for being with us in this occasion, and also for all other resource persons who are giving lectures from today 6th of November, 6th November to 16th December. Okay, just 40 days. Okay, 40 days program, within 40 days 10 lectures. Okay, enough gap is there for doing homework. Homework from the student side also, you have to make homework before coming to these lectures, because it is better to have some preparation on the topic mentioned. Then if you are coming with that preparation to this type of lectures, you can grasp more. Okay, like that all of you. go ahead. I wish all the very best. I congratulate my faculty members, Mr. Samad and all other faculty members of the Department of English for organizing one best program for student community. With these words, I am very much delighted to inaugurate the DecaLect Season 2 on culture. Thank you very much.
അത് പെട്ടെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു നമ്മളെ ഫസ്റ്റ് സെഷനാണ് ഇപ്പം നമ്മൾ നടന്നെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പം ഇനിയുള്ള തുടർന്നുള്ള എല്ലാ സെഷനിലും നിങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരും ഇതേപോലെ തന്നെ 10 സെഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട് ടോട്ടൽ. അതിലെല്ലാത്തിലും ഇതേപോലെ പങ്കെടുക്കണമെന്ന് അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇന്നത്തെ സെഷൻ ഇവിടെ കൺക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യാം. താങ്ക് യു.